Well, hello everyone. It's great to see you today at East End Books. The rain has stopped and the sun is actually sort of peeking out, and we're very excited to have Finn Leary here. Finn is on the cover of Ptown magazine, and there's a fantastic interview and story in here about Finn. This is the anthology that Finn is a part of. The bodies ain't broken. These bodies ain't broken. And in just a minute, Finn will be reading from the book and conversing and answering questions. We will have signed copies of the book available, so people that see the recording of this on our YouTube channel or on Facebook, we'll have stock signed before Finn leaves, so we'll be able to do that. And then because Finn teaches at Emerson, and I have another new store in the Seaport in Boston, I feel that I can get more signed copies, when we need them, so I can do that. So if you want a signed copy, you buy it on the website, just in the memo section, just say, please give me a signed copy, and we'll do that. Okay, so a couple of quick announcements. Our final event for the fall here at Ptown is Thursday. We have an event with Helen Fremont, Outside the Lines, and that's also at 5 p.m. Our next event in Boston, it's almost sold out. It's November 2nd. We're very happy to have Harvard professor Stephanie Burt. It looks like we may be out of Super Day poems again. We had Stephanie for Super Day poems in June here for Pride. But Stephanie, last week, a new book came out. Stephanie's got one of the first kind of authorized books on Taylor Swift called Taylor's Version, which just came out.
It's right behind you.
Yeah, it's here and right here. And this book, you might know Stephanie's name for a number of reasons. One, for being an award-winning poet, but also Stephanie went viral last year with millions of followers because they teach a course on Taylor Swift at Harvard. And so this event's November 2nd. We're going to have a party afterwards for Stephanie, and so if you want to go, I'd get on our website and just get yourself a ticket for that. And then the other big one in December, we have Bob Edwards with his fantastic book Resisting the Right, which is more important than ever, this primer in this book. And so he's also a filmmaker, he and his wife, and they'll be there in mid-December. Finally, if you're anywhere in the area, Sunday, December 7th, we've got a very special event, co-chairing this event with the writer-actress Christy Cashman. It's a holiday soiree to benefit the Boston-based Theater Offensive, which has been around for 35 plus years, performing in many theaters there. I'm separately chairing their capital campaign for their new theater that's going to be built in the Fenway area. This event, December 7th, is at the Quinn, the private club that used to be the Algonquin. The Quinn is, the creative director for the Quinn is our own Ken Falk, who's here and everywhere. And the event's going to be at the restaurant called Woodasol, the recent one that he created that's like being in San Paulo. There'll be performances from London, New York, LA, other places. So if you want to go, the tickets are not public on Eventbrite, so you got to go either to our website, December 7th, to get it, or go to Theater Offensive's website under the event tab. It's going to be a fabulous evening with food, music, and very casual, just a lot of fun, and it's all to support the event. And if you haven't met the new executive director, who's been there about a year, Giselle Bird, this person is amazing. I would come for that reason alone. But, okay, so Finn Leary is going to be reading their work, which is part of the story collection And These Bodies Ain't Broken, edited by Madeline Dyer. Finn is a transgender and autistic author, a program manager at We Need Diverse Books, which is very important, this program, and I'm just another reason why I'm thrilled to meet you in person, and is a faculty member at Emerson College and GrubStreet. Finn was a 2024 Lambda Literary Emerging LGBTQ Plus Voices Fellow for Young Adult Fiction, and is also the editor of the science fiction anthology Future States of Stars. There are many other details about this fabulous bio that Finn has that are on the event page, and I will direct you to that to see that. And then I will say no more so we can get, so sorry, a little bit late so we can get right to Finn. And thank you again for coming off season here and presenting us with this fantastic book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and allowing me to read from my short story, Kissed by Death, in the anthology These Bodies Ain't Broken, edited by Madeline Dyer, published by Page Street Publishing, October 7th. I'm going to read an excerpt from this story, which is a YA horror anthology. The last day that Luca saw Alana, it was unseasonably cold for mid-June. Alana had just gotten out of church, and her parents were still socializing with the other passionate churchgoers of St. Peter's the Apostle. Most Sundays, if she didn't have an obligation, Luca went with them to watch Alana sing in the church choir, even though Luca wasn't Catholic and their family hadn't raised them in a particular religion. Luca could almost ignore the blatant hell-fearing and sin-shaming undertones of the hymns if they focused on Alana's soft, tan lips. As the two of them made their way down Prince Street toward Bradford, they could hear early-season tourists laughing and making conversation about their summer plans. When they rounded onto Bradford Street, they fell in step just a few paces behind an older queer couple. The women had gray and white hair cropped short and were holding hands, smiling as they sauntered down Bradford Street. The sight gave Luca the courage to loop her arm through Alana's. If necessary, she could always blame it on needing to be steadier, since Luca had recently been diagnosed with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It primarily impacted Luca's hands, elbows, knees, and feet, but sometimes it came with unusual levels of fatigue for their age. The two of them wandered down Bradford Street for a while in silence until Alana said, "I'm hungry from all that singing. The canteen? Let's go there one last time before it gets busy for the summer." They had a tradition of frequenting their favorite spots in the spring, finances willing, before the tourism season ballooned the population from around 3,000 to upward of 20 to 60,000 people each summer. Their favorite thing to laugh about was the garland of thongs at the Squealing Pig Irish pub. Luca nodded, and they turned twice until they were ordering breakfast to split at the bustling seaside counter-service restaurant. Alana carried their shared order of crab rangoon, grilled cheese, and fries out to a back picnic table that looked out over the beach. She expertly tore the grilled cheese in half at the diagonal seam and bit into hers. "You don't have to come to church with me, you know," Alana said as she dunked one of her fries in ranch dressing. "It's not as bad as it used to be. There's even a queer Catholic group they run on Thursdays, but I think it's for adults." Alana's parents were the ones who insisted she join the church choir not long after she joined the high school choir. She should be using her lovely singing voice to praise the Lord, or something. Alana's voice was far more suited to singing the Hosier and Encounter lyrics that the Nauset Regional High School allowed its choir to sing, in Luca's opinion. Luca took a fry and gazed out at the ocean. They were facing the bayside, so there weren't large waves like there were when you sat out at the tip of Race Point. You might, if you were lucky, even spot a shark or a whale tail out there. "I like watching you sing," they said. "Besides, it's not the same for me as it is for you. No one's forcing me to be there." Luca's mom had been raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and her resulting religious trauma meant that Luca's parents raised them in a religion-neutral household. Luca only held a baseline understanding of the most common religions throughout history, like an anthropologist might. It was a bit like not belonging to any club when everyone else you knew had been selected into one before they were born. Alana opened her mouth to say something else, but she was interrupted by a cutting voice. "Aw, how cute! You girls are on a date." Annabelle Peters approached their picnic table and stood beside Alana, screwing her face into an expression halfway between pity and envy. Her thick, tawny brown hair hung in front of her eyes and draped over her shoulders like a dramatic curtain. "We're not on a date," Alana replied, unfazed by Annabelle's commentary as usual. Where Luca's internal radio was always turned into a frequency that made these words sting, Alana's radio was turned off. Or maybe it was broken altogether. She lifted her left hand and casually gave Annabelle the middle finger. "Look at my finger. Now kindly follow the instructions." Annabelle scowled at the cloudy sky. "Enjoy your pathetic date, lesbians," she called as she turned and strutted back up the sandy pathway away from the picnic tables. Alana placed a solemn, comforting hand on Luca's, and it quieted her airwaves. "I'm not a lesbian, I'm bisexual," Luca shouted in Annabelle's direction, "and I'm not a girl." They went their separate ways for several hours so Alana could go to the Portuguese bakery with her parents and help them prepare for that week's meal planning and prep. Most of her parents' recipes were either Haitian, from her mom's family, or Portuguese from her dad's. And sometimes, if they could stop arguing about which cuisine was better, they commingled and created something truly extraordinary. Luca went home, but their moms were at their respective jobs as a restaurant hostess and working the register at the queer women-owned store, Women Crafts. About an hour before sunset, Luca and Alana met up again on the shuttle bus to Race Point Beach. They spread out on a soft blue blanket and ate malasadas and beignets that Alana brought, and leftover strawberries from Luca's fridge. Provincetown curled up toward the rest of the state like a pinky finger awaiting a promise, and Luca's favorite spot was right here at the edge of the world. The thick, angry blue waves crashed onto the shore in front of them as the sun slowly set, the cloud cover finally lifting at the day's end to reveal a bright, gleaming orange ball on the horizon. It set the entire shoreline ablaze with strokes of flamingo, lavender, and honey-colored hues. "This is my favorite time of day," Alana said, the sunset casting her face in an illuminating pink glow. "This and sunrise. It just feels like something's about to happen." She clasped her hand around Luca's and smiled, her warm, dark brown eyes alight with the color of the setting sun. Alana reached into her pocket and pulled out something small and gold. It caught the light of the sun and glinted mischievously. She held it out to Luca. "It's just something small, a friendship necklace." As Luca turned the heart-shaped pendant with a dagger at the center over in their hands, Alana added, "There's a secret inside." The dagger unscrewed to open a small compartment inside the locket that held a tiny paper scroll. Luca unwraps the piece of paper to read Alana's precise cursive. "You make my heart sing. All my love, Alana," with a heart drawn beside it. Luca closed the distance between the two of them, settling in closer to Alana and resting one hand on the small of Alana's lower back. It was always so easy. Touching her felt like breathing. "I love you," she said, unprompted and without thinking. "I love watching you sing. I love the way you appreciate the sunrise, even though you've seen it 1,000 times. I love that when I first brought my cane to school and people asked me what happened to me, you said, 'Don't ask Luca that. It's rude.' I loved how you introduced me to a band that formed before we were even born, and that you like to find vintage magazines with their interviews to show me after school. I just love you so much I could scream sometimes." Alana's face was so close that Luca wondered if Alana could hear their heart thudding in their chest to the tune of her words. Touching her felt like breathing, but it also felt like trying to breathe underwater. Alana's eyes glanced up at Luca's lips through her eyelashes. The last crescent of the neon pink sun disappeared beneath the horizon. "I have to go," Alana said, letting go of Luca's hand. She gave her one last look, her brown eyes filled with warmth despite the departure of the sun. The horizon was all deep gray and blue, overcast again in a way that offered no space in the sky for stars. "But I love you too. I'll be back in an hour and a half tops. I promise." Alana was diametrically opposed to being late or inaccurate in her assessment of how long things would take. And then she gathered up the remaining trash left behind her by her pastries and left Luca on the beach with nothing but the waves coming to shore to distract them from their swirling thoughts. Luca waited by the sea for 2 hours, screwing and unscrewing the dagger, reading and rereading the slip of paper inside, until after 9 p.m., when they knew their moms would be getting worried. Alana never showed up. And now I'm happy to take questions and talk to you all about anything in the story, anything in the anthology, anything about Provincetown, which I absolutely adore.
Is that the entire piece?
No, this is an excerpt.
Okay, an excerpt. Okay. I love how you've got all the places in Provincetown woven into your story.
Thank you. I came back here while I was in the process of editing and took notes on specific things I wanted to mention that I wanted to make it onto the page. Even looking at maps to do things like make sure the amount of turns before they get to the canteen was accurate. How far away her apartment would have to be from downtown to make it feasible to walk here.
That's great. Fun research to do.
It is, yeah.
What did you do with your fellowship year? What was your fellowship year like with Lambda?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah. Lambda is a wonderful organization that does LGBTQ literary awards as well as fellowships and writing retreats. During the fellowship program, I was working on my young adult novel in progress, which is about a transgender high school senior in Amherst, Massachusetts, whose late mother publishes a novel about trans main character, and that novel is challenged at his high school, and his decision to fight that challenge along with the challenges against other trans books. It was such a rewarding and wonderful experience to be able to be in community with. It's all for LGBTQ authors, so we all worked together with YA author Darcy Little Badger, who is phenomenal, talented, and a wonderful mentor. And it was such a great experience. My fellow Lambda fellow Cale Plett just had their book Wavelength published the same day that this came out, and Danielle Shandon Emerson, who was also in the program with me, is a PEN America fellow now. I mean, just like such talented people. It was so cool. Thank you for asking.
You'll have to apply for Fine Arts Work Center fellowship.
Which one?
Fine Arts Work Center,
Oh, that's a good.
which is one of the greatest. You know, I've been on fellowships too and others, but it's a lot of the fellowships require that you be working on a specific piece,
Right.
and you submit that piece, and that's what you need to be working on. Fine Arts Work Center gives you the freedom to work on whatever you want, and it's 7-month fellowship. And returning fellows like Ada Limon, Jhumpa Lahari have talked about how important the Fine Arts Work Center, that fellowship was for them, and a number of books that were either written there or good portions were written there, or the inspiration came from there. So that's something to look at in the future. And frankly, I think too, and you should reach out to them maybe about teaching one of their famous weekly courses that happen in the summer, where writers from all different genres, painters, sculptors, are at the Fine Arts Work Center. It's just a great place.
Oh, that's so
So I'll be happy to connect you with some people
Thank you.
offline if you want. So I did have a question that came up here, which was, what do you teach at Emerson?
Thank you so much for asking. I teach in the WLP program, which is writing, literature, and publishing. I've taught primarily grad students in our MFA in popular fiction program, as well as our MA in publishing program, but I have taught undergrad as well, some young adult literature courses, some classes on personal marketing, alternative publishing, which gets into, zines and indie publishing, and how we can use publishing to kind of fight back against the mainstream, and hoping to teach even more as time goes on. It's really fun.
It's fantastic. And of course, Ptowners will know, or not everybody, but a lot of them, that Finn is teaching at Emerson, where one of my favorite people in the world, Julie Glass, is a professor and eminent chair there, and the co-founder of 20 Summers, which is another program to be looking at. Any other questions here? Yeah, sure.
You just gave a talk that I had to miss at Trans Week, which I think was about we need more trans books. Could you just summarize what that was about?
Yeah, that's a wonderful.
Pardon my interruption.
That's a wonderful
Thank you.
question. I did a workshop for Trans Week. We Need Trans Books. It was really advocating for the reality that we need more trans stories and trans authors talking about the high instances of banned books that are featuring trans characters, which it's, according to PEN America, something like 9% of all banned books feature transgender stories, which is incredibly high, all things considered. And it really was intended to not only get people thinking about, works of fiction that they love, how they can do some advocacy and continue to fight back, but also that we're all writers. We all have a story to tell, and what would you write about? How do you kind of find that spark to create and add to the literary canon yourself as a writer? So a lot of questions around, kind of trying to get people to generate, what is it that you would write? How would you create your world? What do you wish that you saw in a story, and how do you make that happen? And the audience was incredibly engaged and had a lot to say, so that was really wonderful.
How did you become part of this anthology?
Yeah, so this anthology, Madeline Dyer, the editor, actually posted about it on her Instagram, and I follow Madeline. At that time, we had really only interacted a little bit professionally, and I decided to reach out to her because my friend Jordan Fleming, who works at OwlCrate Press, who had originally accepted my work for a future anthology, told me at the time I should not have submitted through proper channels. Jordan said, you should have just emailed me to try to get into this anthology. And I said, Jordan, I didn't know you. I love them. It was really sweet and encouraging. And so I reached out to Madeline and I asked if there was any room in the anthology for more contributors, or if all of the contributors had been selected. And I was very surprised when she responded with, please send me an email with your pitch for a story. And then I immediately had to go into my notes app of writing ideas and figure out which of them could possibly fit this story, because now I've got to come up with a pitch for something in, ideally a week maximum or a matter of days. And this was one of the story ideas that was in there at the time. It was simply in my notes app as two teenagers. They're in love with each other but can't admit it. One of them dies and comes back as a vampire. She's hungry and she has bloodstained jeans several years later. That was all I had. I just had a nugget. So I tried to turn that into something larger. I knew that I'd always wanted to set something here in Ptown, so that's where, I drew on that for my pitch. Madeline liked it. The folks at Page Street Publishing also liked it and said yes, and then suddenly gave me a deadline to write it, and then I was like, wow, I can't believe I have to turn a few sentences into an actual story. So I really appreciate both the editor and the team at Page Street Publishing, including and especially Tamara Brasti, for believing in me and encouraging me to write that.
That's great. That's exciting to hear and see how it evolved.
Yeah. It's been very interesting being on the other end of it with Future States of Stars, to see how much goes into an anthology and how there are so many different voices. I mean, there are so many talented writers in here, all disabled authors. There are 2 short stories in here in second person. There are 3 with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, including mine. It's just, it's amazing to be able to be a part of something that so many other talented writers are a part of.
Do you know anything about the cover design and how that was selected? And
yeah, I know that they really wanted to have something that kind of illustrated essentially like the, disabled experience. And I know that it was intentional to have this both be horrifying and also have visible disability representation here on the cover. It's a little bit, hard to tell if you're not looking for that the character's using a visible mobility aid, which I think is incredibly powerful. And I know that the folks at Page Street were really trying to kind of hone in on what can we show people that will help get them intrigued and also, open their mind to what horror could be. And I think that it's it's hard to create a cover for anything, but especially for an anthology with multiple different stories. And I think that the cover artist did a phenomenal job with it. So I'm
Yeah, I agree. It's stunning cover.
it really is. Cover design is not an easy thing.
No. That's great. Well, any other questions? Oh, good.
So I'm autistic as well, and I've always been interested in writing and different ideas and stuff, but I find that I have a very, like, non-linear thought process that just, I haven't been able to, like, figure out how to write a story, honestly. Like, I can write, like, a vignette, or, like describe something, or, like, flesh out a character, but, like, do you have any advice that you either use in your own practice, or that you relay to your students that might help, like a neurodivergent person kind of, like, get their ideas out, I guess, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a great question as well, and I will say first off that I am someone who notoriously doesn't believe in prescriptive writing advice, because which I know is very hard when people want advice. I just think we are all different, and so sometimes you will hear people say, well, you can't be successful unless you write every day. You can't be successful unless you wake up at 5 a.m. to write before work. And, like, first of all, some people work the night shift, so that's not necessary. Everyone is different. I think the most important thing for writing is that you write at some point. You only have to write at some point. I do love that you've asked this question about how do I work with my brain and this nonlinear fashion of writing, of thinking. Maybe you want to tell nonlinear stories. I love reading nonlinear stories. I think that there are a lot of readers who find them incredibly engaging and get a lot out of them. So you might want to explore that. Or if you don't want to tell nonlinear stories, but you naturally think and write that way, I think having a basic plot outline can help with that, because then you can jump to another scene that you feel like writing. I always tell my students, like, it's okay to write out of order. There's nothing stopping you from jumping to, like, the scene where the characters finally kiss, the scene where the characters finally have the fight that you've been waiting for them to have. There's nothing wrong with going to the scene that is, like, calling to you in the moment, and that's where having even just the most baseline outline understanding of what's going to happen can help, so that you're like, I know there has to be a scene where they go to this bookstore, but I don't know exactly where it's going to fit. Then you can jump to that scene if you're wanting to. But again, it may just be if you work naturally non-linearly, perhaps a non-linear story is the path. I love a good non-linear story. I think that there's something so fun about jumping around in time, so. Any other questions?
Well, yeah, I'll ask a final question. I guess do you have upcoming appearances? That's
yeah.
typically somebody who would ask this time, but usually they want to know.
Thank you for asking.
Sure.
I will be at the Boston Book Festival this Saturday, October 25th. I believe the panel is at 11 a.m. with fellow horror authors, several fellow horror authors, and we're going to be talking about the body as a villain or hero, and how, body horror and other types of horror explore what it means to have a body, what bodies are like in horror, basically looking at that. I'm excited to talk about disability representation and trans representation, since my protagonist, Luca, is agender and has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And then I'm also going to be at the Porter Square Books Horror Party on October 30th, which starts at 7 p.m. And there will be other horror authors there as well, and some fun games, a photo booth, merchandise. It'll be a good time. I think there will be horror movies, like, playing in the store.
Is that going to be at their Porter Square location or in their?
Boston, yeah.
Okay, Boston. Yeah, their main store. Okay. Oh, the Seaport store or the main store in Boston? Which one?
I thought that there was just Boston and then Cambridge.
Well, they call the they've got their one, the Seaport with GrubStreet. It's going to be with GrubStreet, where GrubStreet is. Is that the one?
No, it's just simply Porter Square Books.
So it's in Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's in that. So it's their original main location, where it'll be in Cambridge.
No, it is the Boston one. It's the Boston version of Porter Square Books.
Okay. there in GrubStreet in the Seaport. Is that where you're going to be?
Yes.
Okay, so GrubStreet in the Seaport, where Porter Square has a store in there. Okay, so just want to make sure people know it's at that one. Okay,
Yes.
in the Seaport. So you can go there, and then you can come over to Pier 4, right next door to East End Books Boston Seaport.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, and I would mention, because you had asked too, that GrubStreet, if you don't already know, GrubStreet offers a number of courses throughout the year and workshops, and you've taught there as
Yes.
well, as does Fine Arts Work Center in person, but Fine Arts Work Center also has really good online courses as well, virtual courses. So you can check out the Fine Arts Work Center website for that, and you can check out GrubStreet. This is GrubStreet, the literary group, not GrubStreet, the food group. And you can see what they've got going on as well.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming and presenting your story. It's fantastic. And I look forward to getting an event set up in Boston with you and a number of other horror writers.
Yes, I would love to be there, and thank you so much for coming and supporting. I love Provincetown, and I'm just so happy to be here. So thank you to East End Books for this, and thank you all for showing up. Have a great rest of your October.
Yeah, thank you.